it's a very funny thing for me personally to have like this awesome vendetta of like, oh, you said you're not sure about women vocalists, so why don't we just put two amazingly powerful women vocalists on one song? What's up? It's Amanda from Eva Under Fire. You're checking out my weekly mixtape with Brian Colburn.
What is going on, friends? Welcome to my weekly mixtape. I'm your host, Brian Colburn. And over the years, I've been lucky to have some incredible guests on this show, and a few I hold in especially high regard because they were kind enough to jump on during the early days of the show. I'm talking about single-digit episode numbers. The amazing folks like Frank Turner, Kevin Baldus of Lit, and my guest tonight, Amanda Lyberg of Eva Under Fire. Amanda, it is so great to welcome you back.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Single digits. Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while since we caught up.
Sure has. The last time you were here, you and I did a full episode on hard rock cover songs, which 3 years later is still getting a lot of love on the feed.
So fun.
But today we're catching up because a lot has happened in the Eva Under Fire world since we last spoke. So let's start with the opening track from your new album, Villainous, Awakening. So let's start with the basics. How does this track set the tone for Villainous?
Yeah, that one was an interesting one to write in studio. So I believe last time we talked, I told you we love playing live. So we wanted a banger that we could jump to. So that's exactly what we did in the studio. We were all jumping around like jelly beans in the studio trying to figure out what is the right bop. And so that became the basis for when that big riff kicks in the intro. And I think lyrically and thematically, it is actually the culmination of the entire like accepting villainous process kind of comes into this moment of the final boss, so to speak, is this awakening, this aha moment that happens when you're, in the character development, I suppose, or in my case, my personal awareness of my own journey, right? So it was interesting that we chose that one to be first because thematically in my brain, that's the ending.
And I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because we're going to touch on all of those themes in a hot minute. But when you and I last spoke, it seemed like listeners were getting introduced to Eva Under Fire. But this new chapter of the band feels like people are getting introduced to you, Amanda Lyberg. And those aren't necessarily the same thing, even though they are.
It's deeper. It's deeper. It's more personal for sure. I do think that Eva Under Fire and as you had introduced me as Amanda, I do go just by my name now. I feel like, in the album one era was really great. The listeners kind of crowned me, I felt like, with Eva as being just the name that I went by when I was at the show. But I did want to lean into a more personal story on album two. And then no one calls me Eva. Everybody in my personal life knows me as Amanda. So I wanted to introduce people to the real woman and the real story and the real band, actually. Like, this is also a story about, I kept getting this feedback online. People thought my guys were all hired guns because apparently I'm most of the one that's in the reels is like me, right? But that's just because it's easy for me to pull out my phone. The guys don't even like being on camera that much. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
It was funny because no one, I was like, nobody knows. Nobody knows that there was like, I've been jamming with these guys for like 10 years and playing in bars. And like, we are a garage band and still play in my garage. And we've traveled in a van and we've known each other for 15 years. Nobody knows. I was like, we have to fix this. So yes, Villinous is more accurately the real story.
I'm a devastated casualty of the person that I used to be.
Mhm.
There's a real sense of self reflection in that line. Did that come from a specific moment or more of a long term evolution?
I think it's reflective of both. There was definitely a moment, I think, when my dad had passed away that I recognized nothing about me is the same, right? Like now all of a sudden I'm this new woman in this new world and I don't know what to do, but I have to figure it out. So I think that was definitely the moment. But I do think that, in a broader sense, this was absolutely self-discovery. All of these lyrics are kind of maybe talking about my personal character arc. And so I think that when I say devastated casualty is definitely the grief, right? The loss. And I think originally on album one, right, when you hear songs like Heroin, I'm talking about my dad's problems with that particular drug and how devastating all of that was to lose him. But in that loss, there was a lot that changed for me. So I guess this is kind of like from a new perspective, new angle.
Well, as someone who lost his father last year, please let me extend my condolences to you.
Oh,
I know how hard that change is.
yes. Yes. It's a big loss, massive loss.
And I'm coming on a year and I still feel like it still feels all new.
It's so strange that there's no specific timeline for any of these things, right? Like certain people I think go through their self-discovery process depending on like where at in the timeline that specific thing happened, right? Or maybe it's not in response to a thing. Maybe it's in response to a whole series of events that somehow now they look around and they go, "Man, I'm very different after all of that." So I think that's what this album captures.
Well, there's always that one track that serves as a quote unquote musical gateway drug if you're discovering a band for the first time.
Mm.
But then as you dive into the album, you start to kind of peel back the layers as to who that artist or band truly is. Given you, like you mentioned before, performed under the name Eva for so long, is there a song that you feel truly introduces Amanda Lyberg to Eva Under Fire fans?
A song called My Own Name, which is, very much about that is only a part of who I am, right? Eva was a part of the entire scope of who I am, right? But all of who I am is captured in my name, right? It's the title of the whole person, of my whole self, of all of the transitions that I've made and all of the different things that I've been through. So I feel like I also wanted to make a claim with the song My Own Name about like fake people will tell you who you are or who they want you to be or who they expect you to be. And it was really a declaration to those people of I know who I am. I don't need you to tell me.
I have to dig into that a little deeper if you don't mind. When the name Eva was originally coined for you or that you started using it, do you feel like that unlocked something that maybe you weren't able to access prior to using it?
I don't think so. I don't think that there was anything that was necessarily became there that was not there. I think it was a cool name for my stage presence, which a lot of people have said, like, I just watch you come alive on stage. So I feel like it was like naming that other part of me that maybe didn't have a specific term yet. Eva started as a song reference and then became Eva Under Fire as the name of the band. But so when people were just asking, right, because it's a woman's name and they know I'm a woman vocalist, so they were like, "Is this the same woman? Are you Eva?" Right? Eventually, the short answer was yes. And I just felt like that was it, and I was like, "Well, that's cool, because this is me at the show. This is me performing live." I think that performing live, I do feel a different part of me really open up. So it made sense to me that that kind of came to light because of the live show.
Well, the last time we spoke, you mentioned balancing music with being an active therapist.
You
How do you approach writing about something that maybe for you is fully processed versus something that might still be an open wound? And how often do you find yourself at those type of crossroads?
You know, I think that it's not as crossroads as you would think. It's definitely something I thought I had to keep separate, which is why I allowed for the name, Eva to be coined. I was like, okay, cool. Amanda will be the therapist version. Eva will be the musician version. And now I have all of these names for all of my parts. Right. And I'm like, we call it internal family systems, parts work in therapy. Right. But it's like, I have names for my parts. But now I'm like, no, people need to realize this is all integrated. It's all a part of you. And that maybe they don't need all of this separation. And so I don't feel like there is a crossroads, so to speak. I think they work much better together than I had ever really thought that they could. Because here's the thing, my lyrics describe the experience of being human. And when I'm sitting with clients, we're talking about and describing the experience of being human. So I think that there's all these different versions of, if you've processed your trauma, if you've processed your anxiety, if you've worked on your depression, if there's been, right, at which stage of the game are you at? But I think all of it describes a human experience, and in that way is really relatable.
So the line between Amanda the therapist and Amanda the artist has essentially merged at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not really, I felt like I needed to draw one. And now that we're on album 2, it's like, I don't need to draw lines at all. These parts don't need to stay separate.
Now, as someone who writes such vulnerable lyrics in their music, have you ever written something and thought, I'm not ready to put this out in the universe yet?
Oh, I got, it's interesting that you asked me that. This is a good observation. I right out the gate on album 1, the first song that we even turned in for Love, Drugs, and Misery was Heroin.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, right. Like that's my journal entry, basically. Right. And it wasn't written to be like, with any sort of like specific hook in mind, or that we were going for a radio hit, like nothing. It was just what I needed to say. And that was the very first one that we turned in. It was so much raw energy behind that song that the producers who worked with us on that track said, hey, look, we're going to turn it in. I don't know if they will like this song, just as a heads up, because it doesn't fit the framework of a radio hit type of thing. You know what I mean? I don't know what they're looking for. So they kind of cautioned me about what the response to that might be. And shout out Better Noise, immediately when they heard it, they said, hey, listen, we have this movie that we're doing, Snow Babies, and like we would like to pull this song for that soundtrack. And we realize the album is not done yet, but we would like this one first. So, I mean, I couldn't have asked for more of a better reaction to basically me ripping out my heart, putting it on a page and sending it to them. Right. I was on a call much like this. And I remember vividly being like, I know you don't know me, but thank you so much. This means so much to me. I was like in tears. They were like, oh, she's one of those kind of artists, real in touch with her feelings.
Well, I mean, for any first break for a band has to be a powerful experience. So I can imagine this was super important to you.
Yeah, it was.
Well, I want to remind everyone listening that you can hear all the songs we're talking about tonight in their entirety over on the episode page at myweeklymixtape.com. Now let's dive into the title track of the album, Villainous, which features Maria Brink of In This Moment. Over the years, the band has had the chance to collaborate with some incredibly talented artists and bands, such as Spencer Charnas from Ice Nine Kills on Blow, From Ashes to New on Coming for Blood, Ego Kill Talent on Comatose. Given the song's subject matter, how did Maria shape Villainous differently than those past collaborations?
That's a great question because I knew I wanted something that matched the song's current energy, right? Coming for Blood, Blow, Comatose, those were like bangers, and like the guys did a great job hopping on those tracks and like super amazing response to those. And I think it was kind of like their own flavor. But I wanted this specifically to be like, the flavor is there, the pot has been stirred. I need someone who elevates what is currently a part of this song. And Maria was the perfect match. Like, if there's anybody that can get on a. So, first of all, like, a lot of people have a lot of feelings about women vocalists in rock music, right? It's kind of been a thing. It's becoming less of a thing, but even on the internet, right? Like, people feel the right, they have a right to comment on like everything, right? And I just,
Unfortunately.
you know what I mean? And like, I just put up a reel that was like, backhanded compliment of like, I usually don't like female vocalists, right? So it's a very funny thing for me personally to have like this awesome vendetta of like, oh, you said you're not sure about women vocalists, so why don't we just put two amazingly powerful women vocalists on one song as this huge heavy hitter that's about to take over? And then the song on top of it is called Villainous. It's like, we will give you exactly what you said you didn't want, and we're not going to smile about it and tell you that it's okay what you said. Like, this is what we belong here too. And Maria has been doing that. Not only that, but I feel like she has just this amazing way with imagery. Like, her live show, insane. Like,
Yeah.
it's an entire, like, her performance is massive, but everything that she orchestrates, from the set design to the costume work, it's very theatrical, right? And she built it that way. So I knew from the first little inklings from the suits, as it were, they were like, hey, we're going to try to get Maria on this track. And I was like, do not play with my heartstrings. I was like, if you get the mother of metal on this track, I will lose my mind. And it happened, and it was fantastic. And I was like, this is and she was so kind. She like Instagram messaged me and was like, I'm so excited to be a part of it. And I want you to know that like this song is going to be massive for you guys. And she was right. I mean, I could not think of a better feature for that song specifically.
Now, one thing about the song that truly captured my attention is you're both, through the lyrics and through the vocals, owning the villain persona. And that is both bold and, if I could be a little open and vulnerable myself, not an easy thing to do. How did you take that label and turn it into something that's empowering?
There's always a story behind those villains. There's like this misunderstood thing. They're like that for a reason. And I think that is something, that idea specifically, they're like that for a reason. I think women specifically are very drawn to that idea. I think that it gives permission for men to also kind of like feel their feelings about whatever it is that's like, yeah, I had to go there, right? Whatever it was that I was doing that wasn't great or that somebody didn't want me to do, maybe sometimes it wasn't the right thing, but I needed to. I needed to back that person up. I needed to make them stop doing that to me. I needed to protect whomever it was that was with me that night. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's always a reason. So I think that me leaning into owning, calling me a villain, like, I'll be the villain in your story, I guess. If that's what you need to feel better, that's fine. But I am protecting what I need and doing what I need.
Well, now let's cue up the monstrous murder scene.
If I'm dead on the doorstep, just step over my death. It ain't nothing but a body, ain't nothing but I think you were right now. Was all in my head. I ain't nothing but a body, I ain't nothing but a body. Cut it off if you just can't take it. Take it out, I'll just rearrange it. It's not real, shut it down, take a pill. But I feel it in my body, I know what comes next. All my dreams have become my nightmares. Falling through the midnight air. Should have known better when the smile turned to stares. I scream but no one's there when I break so deep, deep to my grave.
Now, just before you were talking about a reel you posted, and it's no surprise that in this day and age, social media does, to an extent, shape how people view themselves, especially when you're talking about younger audiences. I'm a father of two, and I see firsthand how social media can impact people from a young age. How does this song explore staying authentic under that pressure and the expectations that come with it?
I think that where Villainous was empowering, I think Murder Scene is a little bit vulnerable to that. I think that it maybe seeks to validate that young person's experience or that person's experience, the pressure of it all. It feels like people are out to get you. Feels like people are out there to end you, right? When nothing is sacred anymore. And there's not an inherent sense of respect when someone is speaking to or typing, right? Keyboard warriors,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think that with Murder Scene, I was just wanting to embody that feeling and to normalize it and validate it and let people know that the pressure exists. You're not making it up. It's not normal to just expect yourself to not feel that because there's so much desensitization that's happening, right? When someone is a screen away from you, it dehumanizes that person to you, right? And it's a distance that I don't like because when people are standing in a room together, all of a sudden people can act right. you know,
Amen.
all of a sudden people can like not say the wrong thing or be a little bit careful, be a little bit gentle, be a little bit considerate. But as soon as there's a screen that's involved, it's like all of a sudden all bets are off, and that's not okay. So it feels like people were trying to. I would see this kind of scrutiny and be like, if I died, would they care? If it was this, would they care? If I'm nothing but a body to be scrutinized and to be looked at and judged, right? And if you look at the visualizer, there's a lot of looked at and judged
Yep.
that's in there. So I think I was just trying to give voice to that feeling more so than to teach how to power through it.
I've seen friendships and families torn apart over online dialogue. And I think in an even more gross fashion, it extends online when there's an anonymity to the person you're speaking with. So if it's somebody who's a music artist like yourself, a podcast host like myself, someone who does art or has a social media channel, people feel an impunity with the things they say to those creators. And I think it's disgusting. And I feel like that's something that needs to be pointed out. And that's why this song really resonated with me, because just because you can say something doesn't mean you should say something.
Yeah, or give you the right to not receive any kind of like blowback from that, or like we don't have to like it either, right? We can call it out for what it is, and we know that it's just I love the conversation around hate comments where it's just like, that's just engagement, or like when you can be above it and rise above it. But it just shouldn't be happening like that, right? If we all saw each other as a person, it wouldn't be that way. And the reason why I believe that is because when we're in the same room together, things change.
Mhm.
And I think we remember that we're all human, and that becomes a different thing entirely. So thank you for pointing that out, that was encouraging to you from the song.
Oh, of course. Now, I know we're talking a lot about the lyrics and themes here, but I want to zoom out a little bit and focus on the music itself, because the band's sound has clearly evolved from Love, Drugs, and Misery, as well as Anchors, if you want to go all the way back to 2015. Were there any approaches or changes that drove that shift for the band?
Yes, lower, deeper, darker. Woo!
That sounds like a cheerleader anthem.
Okay. It was actually a really funny experience. So we were in studio with John London. We were writing with John London in LA. And it was one of the first writing trips that we had been on. And Chris has this like obsession with having bounce in like every riff. So he said, what if we did something like this? And John, I think, took his guitar and handed him like something that was in a drop tuning and said, now do it. And then it was like, oh, oh, we can sound like that too. And I was actually a little intimidated because we had never written in that low of a tuning before. That's much more of like a metalcore type of sound. And I sat with it for a bit, and I wanted to try it in order to write to it to see whether or not I could. And I think giving it that tone helped me to be grittier, to be more mean, honestly. It because the sound is more mean. And so I wanted to be more like direct and firm in what I was saying and describing things as I feel them and as they are. And it doesn't like broker any kind of room for other people's interpretation. I'm like, that's for you. This is my song. This is what I go through. Right. And I think that that kind of energy was so needed. So I think that the tone of the guitar really changed a lot of the tone of what I was saying. Just kind of encouraged me to, like I said, be a little bit more mean.
Oh, there's definitely an intense intent on these new tracks. Was it the music or more than that that helped shape this?
No, I think honestly, personal lives shaped that adventure, right? We wanted the music to say something. And I think, like you said, that intent was very present when we were writing album two. It had been a long time, right? I think a lot of people don't remember that, like, and or don't know that album one for us was written and completed and set for release in 2020 and then didn't come out until years later, right? Because of the pandemic and everything else.
Yep.
So in that time, right? And some of those songs we had written in 2018. So in that time, there's so much life that happened, so many experiences that happened that I felt like were very much us growing up, us learning about one another, about ourselves, about what shapes us. So I needed this to be more about our story. I feel like I wanted to write more about what my experience was for me. It was more important for me because lyric writing for me is a way to understand my own reality. I think that's my own therapy, so to speak. It's like I'm processing things through writing it out. And I hadn't been able to do that in a long time because we just didn't have, it wasn't time to write album two yet, right? The funds, they weren't interested in, releasing another couple of tracks or whatever. And so I would write, and I would write just, voice memo stuff in my phone. So it was really cathartic for me. The album two writing was really rewarding to have more Amanda lyrics on these tracks. And the guys were great with that. They were the ones that brought that to me and said, look, we really have to lock in on this next album. We've been through too much, right? That was kind of the sentiment. We've been through too much. We need this for us. And I said, yeah, you guys are right. Like this definitely needs to be more intentional.
Well, considering the songs we've already dug into tonight from Villainous, how do you feel they reflect the album as a whole, both musically and thematically?
How do I feel that they reflect? I mean, all of them are different in my mind. All of them are like different locations in this space where my life exists, right? Whatever that is, right? It's like my own personal Gotham City. And each one of these is like its own little chapter in describing what it was like to go through it, processing about how I felt afterward, figuring out what I wanted to be in the duration of that, what the result was, all of these different moments about, really just like this self discovery story. So it plays out in my head like a movie, which is partially the reason why I love all of the music videos that we've done and the visualizers because they're all a part of that same world.
And you could definitely see that, which again, I want to remind listeners, you can hear and see all the videos we're talking about tonight in their entirety over on the episode page at myweeklymixtape.com. Now, pivoting from the studio to the stage, because we haven't talked about live stuff yet. You've shared bills with so many artists over the years, and this summer, you're heading out with Five Finger Death Punch for an extended tour. What's something you've noticed about how other bands that you've toured with connect with their audience that has helped shape how Eva Under Fire approaches their sets?
I think the bands that I've seen on big stages, if I'm drawn to them, they're doing the thing that I'm doing. I think that's my main takeaway is that they are being authentic in that space. It's also like a fun energy that is still it still very much has a commanding presence, right? And I'm drawn to that because I want to participate in their world. I feel like that's the world that they're creating, is they're inviting me to, is like there's this reciprocal energy happening, and I'm drawn to them as like, you know, all hail the leader on the stage, right? And I think that that's something that I try to embody when we're up there as well. Is just like I want people to really be drawn in from our world, our story, our, and the way that I'm hoping that this album translates to live is like, okay, I wrote about my self-discovery journey. It's your turn now. I want people to feel that in the audience, that they can make these decisions and find their way to.
If you could go back to that early version of yourself, what would surprise her most about where the band's music is now?
Oh, she would freak out. Young me would be like, we're doing what? With who? How? Okay. So I think that, when I was young, like middle school, high school young, I was a shy kid, and I was really intimidated in other people's skill set that I didn't have. Right. So at the time I couldn't scream. I didn't have a ton of like amazing range. I had great pitch. I've always had excellent pitch. But I didn't have, I wasn't confident in rock music, right? I think in several interviews I've kind of talked about like I was always intimidated by rock because I have a clean tone vocal most of the time. I don't have like a raspy type of voice, right?
Mhm.
Gritty voice
Mhm.
that I felt like you had to have. So I think young me would be shocked that we can now like do the big roar and we get on stage with metal bands and we're playing in drop tuning, and we had the number one most added song at rock radio like last week. I don't think she would know what to do with that.
Well, in the spirit of mixtapes and keeping the music conversation always moving forward, what are 3 songs that you're rocking out to right now that the mixtapers listening should have on their radar?
Ooh. Ooh. Hmm. 3 songs that I'm rocking out to right now that everybody should have in there. Okay, so anything the funeral portrait, that's first and foremost, right? Holy water specifically in this moment. But I also love, selfishly, Voodoo Doll. If you want to listen to the version that I'm on, then that's great for you. But listen to both, actually. Lee was a genius when he told me. I told him, I was like, oh, I sang all over it. Don't feel obligated to keep whatever you don't like. And he was like, no, 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 I'm keeping everything because that means it's very different. The song feature has its own. And he was like, so the goal is everybody to just stream both. So go stream both. um, and then, gosh, I just saw Super Sick Band, Until I Wake.
Nice.
I think I heard them on Octane. I don't remember what song it was, but their entire set was fire. So go listen to Until I Wake. Okay. Also on that show was Diamante, and her brand new song is Bite of the Beast. I love her so much. She is, if you are just like, I need that 80s dance, like that 80s power, you need to check out Diamante.
Oh, her song 1987?
Oh, she played it live. Yes.
I have not heard the spirit of 1987 captured as well as she did on that track since 1987.
So good. So good. Yeah, she's the best. And I think that, there's a lot of really, really cool artists that we've been able to like hang out with and meet or be introduced to because we go to shows. So I never really know who it's by or what it's called, but I can give you some good bands.
Well, the new album Villainous drops July 10th. You can pre-order the vinyl and CD over at evaunderfire.com, or you can pre-save it on all the streaming platforms. But honestly, if you want your favorite band to keep making new music, I say this all the time, in my humble opinion, physical media is always the way to go. Amanda, it's been such a pleasure to have you back on the show again. Let's not wait another 3 years to do this again.
Good idea. We shouldn't. Thank you so much.
And to all the mixtapers listening, you could check out the full catalog of My Weekly Mixtape episodes over at myweeklymixtape.com. You can hit me up on all the social media channels at My Weekly Mixtape. Use the contact page at myweeklymixtape.com or myweeklymixtape@gmail.com if you want to send me ideas for future episodes of the show. And if you'd like to take it a step further, join the Mixtaper community at patreon.com/My Weekly Mixtape. It's free to join, and there's several tiers there available if you'd like to support the show a little extra, none of which is expected, but all of which is very much appreciated. And along with that appreciation, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, leave a 5-star review, leave a thumbs up, leave a comment, do all the things, help spread the word about My Weekly Mixtape to other music fans in your life. Once again, my name is Brian Colburn. This has been My Weekly Mixtape, and until next time, enjoy the tunes.